Welcome everyone to New Voices, New Rooms. This is our Thursday afternoon pick of the list. We are delighted to have with us, starting off, is Dan from Baker and Taylor.
Hi, everybody. Baker and Taylor Publisher Services here.
Publisher Services.
I'm just going to make sure you know we have a bunch of direct special offers coming for the fall for independent bookstores. And our two rep groups, just so you know, we're not the Baker and Taylor wholesale company. We're the distribution division, and our two rep groups for NABA are Northeast Publisher Reps and Southern Territory Associates. So check with them on several special offers for stores for the fall. The first book I'm going to be talking about, the first few books, are Christmas titles. The first is 'Twas the Night. This is the first art and cultural history of the famous poem, published in time for the 200-year anniversary. Has more than 200 images, and the author is a bit of a 'Twas the Night Before Christmas obsessive who has collected many of these works and purchased them herself. So she has the rights to use a range of artistic giants who throughout history have illustrated this crazy guy and his visit to families on Christmas. We think it's got a national marketing plan. It's going to get tons of publicity. And be sure to check that out. It's a glorious hardcover celebration of the poem. And like I said, the 200th anniversary of the writing is this fall. And the 200th anniversary of the publication is next fall. Next up, we've got 12 Days of Christmas. This is by Brianna Corscott. She's an East Coast, Eastern Shore artist who uses watercolors to capture sort of the flora and fauna and magical creatures through a range of books she's done. Children's titles on mermaids and selkies. And this is an all-natural sort of fun 12 Days of Christmas counting book and holiday keepsake. So the 8 maids of milking are monarch butterflies on milkweed. The 9 ladies dancing are ladybugs on pincushion flowers, etc. So that's a delightful picture book. Then next up, we got a backlist title from last year. It just blew out the door so fast that we didn't get a lot of independent stores on board before we ran out of stock. It got a starred review from Publishers Weekly. It's called The Night Before Christmas, and it stars all these animal creatures as the characters in the story, including a gigantically charming polar bear, Saint Nicholas. Next, what's up next? These are ornate classics. These are smaller, gilded edges and gilded covers and spine designs from Arcturus, and they have put out this Washington Irving and Nutcracker editions. The Washington Irving in particular is Old Christmas. It's based on his 1820s visit to London, and that was about 20 years before A Christmas Carol was published. So if you have customers who like that sort of old English Christmas traditions, collections of stories, these are very affordable, $12.99, ornate classics. I thought I'd make sure you knew about the 2 Christmas ones in that series coming this fall. Next up from ECW Press, we've got Mike Lukovich, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning editorial cartoonist, whose book, A Very Stable Genius, with cartoons about Trump, came out a few years ago, and now he's got The Twisted History of the GOP. Very timely, makes a wonderful place setting around the holidays. That was a joke for certain family members. He is the pride of Atlanta, and these did very well as sort of gifty, fun items for the holiday season by Mike Lukovich. I'm not going too fast. Another ECW Press, this is the third title in the Accidental Veterinarian series. The only reason I put this in here is in my notes that this author gets compared to James Herriot quite a bit, which we took very seriously. Very cute stories about cats and dogs, but also snakes and wolverines and crazy exotic animals. He's an accidental veterinarian because he didn't really plan on that as a career, but he's just a wonderful writer. He's gotten a range of starred reviews. Then next up, there's 2 paperbacks from ECW Press. Dinner on Mars, and then Lost Feast is in paperback as well. Lost Feast was an NPR pick, got several starred reviews by Lenore Newman, and she is a food scientist who writes about, in Lost Feast, she writes about cultivars and species that we literally ate to death that are no longer available. And in Dinner on Mars, she talks about the future of food production versus the past. In both of them, she's got really captivating passages imagining the meals of the future or of the past. And if you have foodie customers, They make wonderful paperback gifts. Also great science writing. Next, we've got a few novels from Bancroft Press. I wanted to make sure they're a small independent publisher who gets excellent reviews and publicity. Must Read Well got a great review from Publishers Weekly. It's two feminists, one a PhD grad student and the other a groundbreaking bestseller from the 1960s. The younger woman answers an ad and reads letters and journal entries to the older legend, and their sort of psychological thriller as she does that and reveals things about the past, as well as she's trying to get information for her PhD on this groundbreaking author, makes for fascinating reading. It's also very fun. It's got kind of a lot of literary allusions and fun for that kind of customer. Their other novel is Daisy. This is a retelling of The Great Gatsby from Daisy's perspective. Has gotten wonderful advanced reviews. It was a semi-finalist in Publishers Weekly's Book Life Fiction Contest. I love the first sentence. Nick made a lot of money off my story. It's got a lot of Me Too kinds of elements, but also some more in-depth exploration of this character from that era. And then they also have Sondheim and Me, which is a wonderful title published in time for the anniversary of Stephen Sondheim's passing by a gentleman who did the newsletter for Sondheim. So there are all kinds of original notes, faxes, and letters from Stephen Sondheim on his work. There's a 64-page photo insert with all kinds of ephemera. But the Broadway and musical legend, if you have fans of that genre of music, they're going to love that book. The Emperor's Soul is a 10th anniversary edition of the Hugo Award-winning novel from Tachyon Publications. It's got a new scene in it, as well as some additional new content that's coming this fall. And then I'm just going to blaze through some children's books here real quick. Bushel and Peck, one of our fastest growing new publishers, has two illustrated collections of poetry, one on Robert Frost and one on Emily Dickinson. These were extremely well received at Children's Institute. If you saw me there, they're wonderfully illustrated, full color, oversized 8x10 editions. They have a deluxe illustrated edition of My Father's Dragon, which was going to be a movie, an animated movie on Stranger Things. Great tie-in for this fall. Including, I can't remember, it's on Netflix rather, but the movie, the voice of the dragon is from one of the stars of Stranger Things, whose name escapes me. It's in my notes, but that's going to be a big hit, and we think that star is going to be on a lot of talk shows this fall talking about his career in this movie. They have My Secret Lives, The Secret Lives of Video Games, which is a paperback talking about video game creators and famous games. Makes a wonderful hand sell to parents and grandparents looking for books for a young gamer, and there are millions of those. They just got a starred review for When You Open a Book, which is a wonderful illustrated celebration of the magic of reading. That's a picture book that's coming this fall. There's all kinds of wonderful interiors and Edelweiss on that. And then just a few more picture books. There's, I think Cultured Donuts is next. It is. This is a hilarious guide to art, 16 artists if they made donuts. So Pollock's in here, Georgia O'Keeffe is in here, Salvador Dali, and there's extensive back matter on all these art terms and the techniques that they used. So it's a wonderful, fun introduction to art. And then from Arcturus, there's Epic Myths for Fearless Girls. This is the latest in their Inspiring Heroines series. It's behind me here. Oversized, full color, illustrated retellings of myths. This is the third or fourth title in that series that is really girl-powered retellings of famous stories. That's it for me. I don't know how I did on time.
You did great, Dan. And now we shall move on. And
hey, thanks, everybody.
We have Nisa from Como Sales.
Hi, everybody. I only have a handful of books on this presentation, which I did on purpose because I was hoping to allow a little bit of time to talk more about the Workman Hachette transition, since there are always more questions to answer. So diving right into the books, I'm actually starting with a book that's not here in the presentation because it hasn't been announced yet. It's from one of the Harper imprints, and it's called The Stories We Tell. It's a new memoir from Joanna Gaines. So most of you know Joanna. She, along with her husband Chip, were the hosts of the show Fixer Upper on HGTV. They started the Magnolia brand. And together and separately, they've written several best-selling books, but this will be Joanna's first solo memoir. She was born in Kansas, raised in Texas to a Korean mother and an American father, and growing up mixed race has been a huge part of her story. So this will be a raw and authentic journey into the author's story and eventually into the reader's story as well. It will be perfect for fans of Joanna and Chip and HGTV and Magnolia and all that good stuff. So that will be a $31.99 jacketed hardcover, publishing on November 8th. So the next one, The Small Spot of a Dot, which is the first one in your Edelweiss collection here, is a new picture book from Lindsay Davis, who's an Emmy Award-winning journalist and an ABC News anchor and correspondent. She's the best-selling author of 4 previous children's books. And in this one, she talks about all the ways in which we are the same. In fact, genetically, 99.9% of our genes are identical to other people, and we're all really just part of the same human race. And then that 0.1% is what she's calling the dot. So that dot is what makes us unique and special. So it's really just a celebration of our similarities and our differences. This one will be shipping in January. So I'm also going to sell it again for the winter spring list. And it does have a 6-copy signed pre-pack. So moving on to some Sterling titles, which is now called Union Square and Company. This book, You Don't Know What War Is, by Yiva Skaletska, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong. This was a hot title at the London Book Fair. Rights have already been sold in over 12 countries. It was in Edelweiss for a long time as Untitled Diary, so I'm sure a lot of people just skimmed right over it. But now that it's been formally announced, this is a book of diary entries from a 12-year-old girl experiencing the Russia-Ukraine war firsthand, and the mental and physical challenges that she had to endure while taking refuge from the bombing of her city. So after going underground into a basement bunker, Yiva starts keeping a diary. That's what this book is. She and her grandmother eventually do escape to Dublin, where they are now. She doesn't know if they will ever be coming back. So the title is based on a quote from hers. Everyone knows what war means, but practically no one knows what this word really represents. Everyone says it's terrible, scary, but no one knows how much fear the word conceals. So this will be on sale October 25th. And then switching gears to something entirely different, this is a new dark romantic teen novel from Sarah Shepard, who's the author of the Pretty Little Liars series, as well as the Lying Game series and The Perfectionists. Sarah lives in Pittsburgh, so she is in our territory. It's a moody thriller centering around 19-year-old Casey, who starts seeing another person's memories in her mind, including that person's death. And so she flees her home in New York City to take refuge in a remote beach town on Long Island that she's never been to. But she finds that all of these places are strangely familiar to her. And of course, she meets a boy and they fall in love, and together they try to unravel the paranormal mystery. This is the perfect new book for Sarah's fans. I read it, couldn't put it down, stayed up all night reading it. Publishes November 1st. And then finally, a couple books to highlight from Workman that are coming. This one, hopefully this title and jacket grabs you all. Ejaculate Responsibly. So if we can all try to be mature on this call. The book originated from a viral Twitter thread from author Gabrielle Blair, who's a Mormon mother of 6. And she argued that irresponsible men are ultimately the cause of unwanted pregnancies. So in this book, in 25 arguments, she deftly moves the abortion debate away from legislating women's bodies and over to men's lack of accountability. So for example, for men, birth control, condoms, is not invasive, it's easy to get, it's readily available, and yet many men choose not to use them. Also, women can only conceive a child a couple of days out of the month, whereas men are fertile all the time and could theoretically father thousands of children every month. So the book's a funny, informative, and thought-provoking title. It's obviously got a big hook here, so I think people are going to love it. It's available as a 6-copy display and ships or publishes on October 1st. And then finally, Fatty Fatty Boom Boom by Rabia Chaudhry is the only title that Workman has in the NABA holiday catalog this year. Rabia may be known to true crime aficionados as the person who brought the Adnan Syed story to the attention of Sarah Koenig in the Serial podcast. She was a childhood friend of Adnan's, and she had a small role in that story. And she now has a famous podcast of her own about wrongful conviction. But this book is actually not about crime at all. It's about her relationship to her body and her culture, and primarily food. So she says, my entire life, I've been less fat and more fat, but never not fat. So here you can see she's brutally honest about her eating binges, the bullying she experienced as a child, her shameful feelings about her body. But unlike a lot of other books like this, she's hilarious and writing with joy about the foods that she loves and about her immigrant family. She's from Pakistan. So the book can be classified as a food memoir. It does have some recipes from a Muslim author that explores South Asian immigrant experience. So my favorite tidbit about this book is that in order to help fatten up scrawny baby Rabia, her parents would feed her 2 full bottles of half and half every day. And they also had her teething on frozen sticks of butter. So if that doesn't help you get into this book, I don't know what will. Rabia also lives in our territory. She's in Baltimore, and it publishes on November 8th. So that's it for the books. I have a couple minutes. I don't know if anyone wants to ask any questions or if you just want me to keep talking at you. I want to reiterate that I'm still your Workman rep, or Fraser is, or Maureen is, depending on where you are, until the end of this year. Fall 22 is the last Workman season that I will be selling to you. And the winter 2023 season will be sold in by Hachette reps. I've also gotten a lot of questions about returns. Returns should still go to the Workman warehouse in Wisconsin. And that will be until the books physically are in Hachette's warehouse, which is not happening until at least Q2 of 2023. So, any questions?
Someone wanted the Joanna Gaines book title again.
It's called The Stories We Tell.
All right, any other questions for Nisa? I guess that's it. Thank you, Nisa.
All right, thank you.
Okay, up next we have Jeremy with Rutgers University Press.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to our presentation. Rutgers is really committed to independent bookstores. We have a program called Rutgers Loves Indies. That's also the discount code at our distributor CDC. But if you have questions about that, talk to your reps. That's Southern Territory Associates and Parson Weems, or you can just email me, sales@rutgersuniversitypress.org. And there's a copy of those terms on our book site in the New Voices, New Rooms. I have a few titles to talk to you about. Our first one is Every Wrong Direction, an Emigre's memoir by Dan Burt. Dan Burt is probably best known in American to American audiences he was the attorney in the famous case between General William Westmoreland and CBS News, which Westmoreland won back in the over the conflict about American conflict in Vietnam. So he tells the story from his rough working class origins in Philadelphia to becoming a lawyer, a spy, a cultural warrior, and an expatriate. And his moving memoir maps Stan's pursuit of realization and disillusionment and eventual abandonment of the American dream. He now lives in somewhat of an exile in the UK, but he divides his time between Philadelphia and the coast of Maine. So that has national advertising. It will be in the, I think, 5 holiday catalogs. And all of the titles I'm presenting today have DRCs on Edelweiss and NetGalley. If the NetGalley titles aren't launched, they'll be up in the next month. The next title, America's Pivotal Year, 1980, Jim Cullen. This is his fourth book from us. Cullen compellingly details the events of 1980, a pivotal moment in American history 42 years ago, which culminated in the landslide election of Ronald Reagan to the presidency and inaugurated the right return in politics and culture. The next one is a favorite of mine. The Internet is for Cats. Everyone knows it was International Cat Day yesterday. That the internet is run on the backs of felines. This is an in-depth look online animal photos, memes, and videos, including analysis and interviews with everyone from animal-loving Redditors to TikTok influencers seeking to make their pets famous. $24.95 in paperback and comes out in October. Our next book is a profusely illustrated and fascinating account by a masterful storyteller of a single extended portrait session that took place between the classical Indian dancer Ram Gopal and the photographer Carl Van Vechten in New York in 1938. All the issues having to do with race, class, gender, desire, homoeroticism, they're all here. Van Vechten was primarily the person who brought the Harlem Renaissance writers to the fore back in the 30s. So this is a $34.95 heavily illustrated paperback. It comes out in November. There is also a cloth edition for your stores that prefer cloth. Just out shipping starting today, introducing a new series for Rutgers called The Feminist Bookshelf, Ideas for the 21st Century, is an edited collection on the perils of populism. This uses a feminist lens to help diagnose the factors behind the global rise of right-wing populism, and it's attempting to teach us how to resist the threat it presents to democracy. All of you, if you've been following in the news lately, you'll see that the near dictator, the neo-fascist leader of Hungary, just spoke of the National Conservative Political Action Committee's annual gathering here in the United States. They also held their previous gathering in Hungary. So this looks at the trends internationally and domestically in right-wing populism. An important book, $24.95 in paperback, and publishes in September, but just started shipping. The next book, Nan Bauer-Maglin has written 3 different books for Rutgers. They've all been big sellers and have gotten substantial reviews. She and her co-editor, Daniel Hood, are looking at stories of dating and new relationships after 60 with gray love. Seeking and sometimes finding love, 45 men and women ages 60 to 94 from different and diverse backgrounds write about dating, building a relationship, or fashioning a life alone. $24.95 in cloth, publishes in January, will be shipping in December. And we will have paper galleys of that probably next month. So hit your rep up or send me an email if you want them. The next one, I'm going to talk about 3 in the new series that we're starting also in January. But this is unique for Rutgers in that we're mostly a social science and nonfiction publisher, but this is a really moving novel. It brings to life, in praise of disobedience. This is Claire of Assisi, a newly translated novel about the visionary who liberated herself from the chains of materialism and patriarchy. St. Clair has become an inspirational figure for a new generation of readers. So this is historical fiction, it's religious fiction, It's major literature from a leading Italian feminist. It's never been published before in English, and it kicks off a new series for workers. So national advertising, the whole gang, $22.95 in cloth. The next two are also from that series. Adriana Bravi, My Language is a Jealous Lover, about the challenges of translation, and Reversing the Great Gaze, What If the Other Were You, in which Genevieve Macaping, who is from Africa, but lives and is an Italian national, writes about the trials and tribulations of being a person of color in Europe, with major applicable lessons for the United States as well. We've heard a lot about logistics and supply chain dynamics because we work in publishing and we're heavily dependent on paper, other supplies. This is all about the origins and beginnings of logistics and supply chain. The container shipment, the kind you see on ships, in ports, and on trains, was invented right here in New Jersey at Port Newark, which is the largest port on the East Coast. This is a business book, it's an engineering book, it's a book about the cultural history of container shipping, and it's about why you didn't get some of those color books from China last Christmas season. So it should be a good read. Angus gives great talks, he's very available, and I know that we're doing a lot of events. Last and certainly not least, an illuminating book about healing at the intersection of modern medicine and traditional spiritual practices, 8 Tales of Healing from Hospital in France, where the authors have been exploring a new way to talk about healing with people from different cultures. So this could fit into your New Age section, it could fit into your psychology section, or just health and healing. It's really beautifully written, and $24.95 in paper, comes out in November. How did I do on time? I think that's it.
You were perfect.
My markup notes have a lot more information and background. And once again, our sales reps in your territories are Southern Territory or Parts and Weems. And you can always shoot me an email. My email is jeremy.granger@rutgers.edu or sales@rutgersuniversitypress.org. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. That concludes our program.